Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the organizers and Mr. Balakakis for inviting me here today. I will try within my 10 minutes to combine both the topic that I had to speak last night and this, also to talk about restructuring, because we plan both those issues in the ministry and I can combine them in my speech. I will say a few words on how we try to create a new program for restructuring farming in Greece by using the funds of the financing of the recovery fund, and how we are going to use financing tools by using resources of the farming development. I am sure that yesterday we talked about the deficit in financing in the agricultural sector. And according to a recent study from the National Bank, but also from the analysis, that SWOT analysis that we did, there is a gap of 2.5 million euros. Even if yesterday I heard of a deficit of 14 million euros. So I will try to combine both topics, the topic that I had to speak yesterday and this topic that we discuss in this panel. Money, there is money, but money is never enough. Therefore, when we had last year from the minister to participate or to propose something about the resiliency fund and the restructuring fund, the first measure was the restructuring of farming, because it is difficult for us to find a sum that could cover the needs of all crops, of all farming sector, and of course all geographical areas in Greece. So this is why how we started last year. We discussed it. We had meetings both with the Minister, Mr. Skylakakis, and with people in Brussels, and this was approved. It is one of the 5 sub-actions for the restructuring of farming sector, which is has a budget of 170 million euros. The ministry, our ministry, has a package of 4 actions that fall under the jurisdiction of the recovery fund. The first is the restructuring of the farming sector with 520 million, which has 5 sub-actions. First of all, with investments in the processing sector. The second, with modernization, the so-called improvement plans. The third is the green ecotourism. The fourth is the restructuring of farming, and the fifth is the genetic improvement of animals. All those sub-actions have been improved. Processing has 180 million budget, the agrotourism 50 million budget, 50 million euros, the restructuring of farming 170 million euros, but the difference of the recovery fund compared to the new CAP programs is that the beneficiaries are collective groups or private companies with contract farming. And the big difference from the recovery fund is that the program should be combined with a main, let's say, reform. So we propose the creation of collective groups in various forms, association of farmers and their unions, professional unions, or groups of private farmers. And after discussions we had with the farmers, we have included private companies with contract farming. So the beneficiaries, the people that would be able to file applications for the recovery fund and the Ministry of Agriculture would be only groups, not natural persons, farmers and breeders. No, they would be able to participate in other measures from the ministry. Now, since this national plan for the recovery fund has been approved, what we do in collaboration with Mr. Skylakakis is that we try to create the invitations, the calls for tender for those 5 sub-actions. We have already submitted for approval the first proposal for processing, but this is a very difficult work because we try to combine the existing knowledge that we have, which means the calls for tender of the development law, but within a flexible framework. I would like to say to you that the recovery fund will have a flexible proceeding. We have a different IT system and different application system, and we have decided that the way of assessing the applications will be different. We will have an immediate, let's say, assessment of the proposals, and that cannot be done in the other co-finance programs where there is a different time or a different type of assessment. You will after its assessment, and if it is approved, we will give the money to the beneficiaries immediately, and this is one of the many benefits of the recovery fund. Something else that we have been discussing and we want to include is to have a big participation of the recovery fund, and the recovery fund is one of the state aids, so we have to take into consideration the regional map of state aids and also the directives 651. So the financing of the restructuring that has been approved can be to 80% of the budget. The two main things that we want to do for the restructuring of farming are the following. First of all, in collaboration with stakeholders such as the Agricultural University of Athens and Dimitris to finalize those crops that need restructuring, the two main parameters that will be taken into consideration and that will define which are those crops are how we'll be able to tackle the new climate parameters, so temperature and drought, and those who can be easily exported, that will help us have more exports. So, on the basis of these two parameters, we collaborate with the Agricultural University of Athens and Dimitris and other institutions, research institutions, to decide on those crops and those plants that will be good. Plants that will be able to withstand the extreme weather conditions, temperature and humidity, and that will participate in increasing the exports of our country. And the second thing that we try to do, because you understand that this is a difficult exercise, is to combine those two financing tools. On the one hand, the roadmap of regional aid and the regulations in order to achieve a big financing participation. The approval that we have now is 80% of the application of the proposed budget. This is something difficult because through the recovery fund is to have the ability to leverage resources, private resources. The minister, Mr. Skylakakis, wishes those 19 million euros to leverage other private funds, maybe an amount double as that. You have to know that at the same time we need the private participation in order to leverage private investments and to have good investments in the primary sector. So this is where we are now. And we try to prepare the invitation, the call for tenders, and sooner than later, in the beginning of the next year, that will be ready. Right now, we also work on the other four measures, the processings, how we will improve agrotourism and investments in aquaculture. So we are into consultation. The call for tenders will be given to consultation because we need corrections and comments and additions. And in January, we will try to open those call for tenders. And in the first 3 months of 2022, I hope that we will be able to have decided to the call for tenders for the restructuring of farming and also for the genetic improvement of animals. What we also try to do is to use those financing tools we have started last year, and we pushed forward and created the Rural Development Guarantee Fund. Now what we want to do is the fund for microcredits, and the philosophy will be the same. We want to use resources, 20 million, in collaboration with a Greek development bank and not the European Investment Bank, and we have already started discussing with that bank to create a financing tool in collaboration with the Greek banks. And we also have a new legislation for microcredits, which gives the possibility to associations, after the approval of the Bank of Greece, to come to this tool. We have a low interest rates and we don't need collateral, and so they can give loans up to 20,000 million euros in order to cover their needs. Therefore, we have already started working with the Greek Development Bank. We have already met with the relevant minister, Mr. Kittas, and this has been approved by the European Commission, and we hope that until the end of the year this would be also a finalized process. So we also try to cover the financing gap that there is in the agricultural sector. Last but not least, I would like to say that within the framework of the new Common Agricultural Policy, we have been discussing as a Council of Ministers something that we all understand, that the next programming period from 28 to 35, I understand from what we have been discussing that it would be something completely different. So, we are moving forward to the reduction of the financing of CAP. Even now, we can see that we have a lot of funds, and it gets the 28% of the EU budget, 360 billion euros, while in the previous programming period it was much more. So we can understand that the funding for CAP has been reduced during the years. What we understand from the European Commission and DG Agri is that the money will be reduced and the grants, the subsidies will be different. We now go towards the direction of the financing tools from 2028 in this programming period until 2035. We will see which will be the priorities of the European Union, since, as you understand, climate change and climate crisis, safety and the refugee issue are more important issues for the European Union than the agricultural policy. The money will be less, and the money will be given in a different way. The immediate subsidies will be reduced. This is what we have been hearing. Create financing tools in order to start introducing that tool to the mindset of the farmers, which is something very difficult for them. They have been used to the immediate subsidies, and in the islands they receive a lot of money, and now you understand that there is a different way of working. So you understand that it's very difficult to convince farmers to create collective groups and start using financing tools. So we also try to educate and train them and make them change their mindset. Thank you very much.